Hello and welcome to Inside the Newsroom. I'm Joey Taylor. Inside the Newsroom is a show where we take a look at the important and trending stories happening in KELOLAND and bring in our newsroom staff members to talk about them. These are the same stories you see every day on air and on our website, KELOLAND.com. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, jury selection is underway in a downtown Sioux Falls murder trial for 46-year-old Jubal Radler. He is charged with second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter, as well as aggravated assault. But first, we're going to talk about a trial from last week. Now, last week, a jury in Minnehaha County found Dylan Farmer not guilty in the murder-death of Casey Schaefer from 2024. And Dan Santella was in the courtroom when the jury delivered that. He's going to join us now.
Following the announcement of Dylan Farmer's acquittal, the judge commended the 12 people who decided Farmer's fate. The judge praised the jury's diligence, telling them, quote, "You should be honored and proud." The attorneys involved in the case didn't want to talk on camera. Instead, we met with Minnehaha County State's Attorney Daniel Hagar and Sioux Falls Chief of Police John Toon.
I don't think people realize just how closely together we work. We're a partnership. We work on all these cases in a variety of different ways. The phone calls between our offices are nonstop. And honestly, when stuff happens, we want to show that we stand together on things, we work together.
With regard to the Farmer trial, Hagar says seeking justice doesn't stop, and a not guilty verdict won't deter his office.
These are difficult cases. Murder requires a lot of resources from law enforcement, from my office, and a lot of work goes into that. I'm really proud of that. Our system, the juries have the last say, and so I respect their decision.
In a high-stakes case, a verdict will prompt a variety of reactions. Hagar and Toom today each shared what their messaging would be for someone who sees a not guilty verdict and isn't happy.
I think part of maturity within my job was understanding, you know what, I play my role in the system, I do my part, ultimately results go where they may. And sometimes that's in the hands of jurors or judges, but ultimately we have to respect those decisions and also understand that the work continues, and tomorrow is another day, and the next case comes up, and we continue to move forward.
Yeah, I would just add that the juries have a hard job, right? You talk about taking time out of their lives to sit through this for that civil service. I think that they paid attention very well. They deliberated since yesterday at 11:30. I mean, so they spent 15 hours in a room talking about this, looking through evidence, and again, we'll follow up with them, but very difficult position that they were put in, so we respect that.
And this is the third 2024 murder where a jury handed down the same verdict. In January, a jury found the defendant in the stabbing death of 25-year-old Aiden Quickbear not guilty. And in mid-December, a jury found the defendant in the March 2024 death of 28-year-old Richard Sowers not guilty as well. Now, we're going to circle back to the jury trial today and bring in Dan Santella. Now, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. First, let's talk about the jury trial for today. Now, that is in the case for 46-year-old Jubal Radler. Talk to me about just the nuts and bolts. What are we seeing for this case?
So unclear exactly the timeline for when jury selection will take place, but we know it's taking place today, Monday. The defendant faces second-degree murder as well as manslaughter and aggravated assault charges in the death of Doris Hyelk. Officers found Hyelk unconscious late in the evening at the end of last June, so it was summer of 2025. Court documents say Radler pushed Hyelk off a retaining wall in central Sioux Falls. Then in early July, Hyelk died from her injuries. So that sort of brought us today, and then with the jury selection set for today, then we would anticipate opening arguments from prosecution and defense sooner rather than later.
Yeah, sometime later this week. And so I'm going to kind of go back to your story from Friday. You covered the Dylan Farmer trial pretty extensively last week. I know you were there kind of opening statements, and kind of there at the end is everything wrapped up. And in your story, you guys sat down, and I say you guys because Lauren Solik was also there in talking with, police and the court. Talk to me just about that interview in general, because it's a lot of information. And like you mentioned, the full one is available online.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was looking for reaction to the not guilty verdicts. Sorry, I sent a text message to Daniel Hager. He's the Minnehaha County State's attorney. He quickly called me back and said, yep, I'm available to talk this afternoon with Sioux Falls Police Chief John Toome. So that's a sort of an unorthodox answer when you reach out to a public official. They say, yeah, I'm available, and so is this other notable public official. So it became clear that, okay, we're probably going to get a fair amount of information for them. So we collectively as a newsroom decided that both Lauren and I would go, and then we would sort of split it up in this way, that I would focus on the farmer not guilty verdicts for a story, and then Lauren would have more of a macro level view of the recent trend in what juries have decided. So then, I think you saw some imagery in that story that we had Hagar and Toome on one side of the table, and Lauren and I. Lauren and I have over the last few years have done a lot of interviews together, so we're pretty good at that kind of dynamic. And we talked to them about this trial, the farmer trial, about recent trials, and just their whole dynamic. Obviously, they hold up different roles in the criminal justice system. One is law enforcement, and it's a leader, and that's Toome. But then, the prosecution from the state's attorney's office, and they talked about the ways in which they work together.
Perfect. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. And folks, I'm going to put a QR code up on our screen right now. You scan this QR code, it's going to take you to KELOLAND.com. From there, you'll be able to find both Dan and Lauren's stories, the full interview, and everything you want. Again, scan the QR code you see on your screen. It'll take you there. And don't go anywhere, because we're going to be right back after the break. During the winter months, it's easy to remember that some people might be in need of hats, gloves, and coats, but other clothing items are often overlooked. KELOLAND's Sydney Hoyer takes us to Remedy Brewing, where a local organization hosted a socks and underwear drive to benefit the St. Francis House in Sioux Falls.
As soon as the doors opened for Remedy Brewing's 6th annual Brunch Fest, the donations were already coming in.
We actually have people already bringing in a whole bunch of sacks of stuff to donate and everything. So it's been really kind of heartwarming to see that happen this morning.
On a busy morning like this one, donations may not be top of mind, but that hasn't stopped people from taking extra time to give back.
We have had a couple people that just show up and see that this is going on, and they've come back and donated as well.
Events are a good chance for Remedy to partner with organizations to lend a hand.
We are always trying to help out the community here in Sioux Falls. If there's anything that our brewery can do to help the community of Sioux Falls, we are all about it.
A donation drive with specific requests gives people the chance to get overlooked clothing items.
I've even seen some more specialized items like compression socks, which are things that just really don't get donated. So it's been great to see that.
And it's not just the people who are in the spirit of giving.
It was very sweet. A dog just came in with a pair of socks in its mouth.
All right, and we're going to have Sydney join us now. Sydney, thank you so much for joining us. Talk to me a little bit about who you spoke with. So you have Remedy Brewing, and then you have the organization putting this on for St. Francis House. Talk to me about who they are.
Yeah, so Andrew is part of Indivisible 605. They're an organization in town that has organized a lot of different kinds of things. They've had some sort of like rallies and protests that they've organized. They did a food drive earlier in this last year that I covered as well. So they do some things to get back to the community as well as kind of getting the community involved. And then you have Aaron there who is part of Remedy Brewing, and he helps put on those events.
Perfect. And when it comes to this, talk to me a little bit about the need. So we kind of mentioned it early on. We're used to seeing hats and gloves, because we think about it when it's cold, not necessarily socks and underwear.
Yeah, that's just something I feel like when you're going, oh, what can I donate? What can I give? That might not be just the first thing that comes to your mind is underwear, socks, or bras, or any sort of undergarments. But it's something that, of course, is super necessary. It's something that definitely needs to be new to be donated. So when you're at the store, if you're buying things for a donation, that just might not be what comes to your mind first.
Yeah, well, and talk to me a little bit about what you saw as you were there yesterday. I love the little tidbit of information that a dog even got in on helping the community. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, the box it was filling up pretty well. I was only about an hour into the 4-hour event, and I would say it was around halfway full already. Just before I got there, I saw some people carrying things in, and he had said also right before I got there, the dog had come in carrying that pair of socks in its mouth to give, and so it seemed like people were pretty excited to be able to give back, and also it was a special event because Remedy Brewing opened a little earlier so people could come in, have a fun little brunch, and also be benefiting the community.
Yeah, well, talk to me a little bit about how these items really help people in need. So they're going to the St. Francis House. Talk to me about how they really help those who maybe need socks, need underwear, that type of thing.
Yeah, the St. Francis House, they're a homeless shelter, so people can go there. Something that Andrew talked about was a lot of families that are there are maybe in need of those things. And so these are for kids, women, men, literally anyone could be getting these items. And of course, everybody needs these items. And so it's special that people are able to get these specific things for them and know that they're going to a really good cause.
Perfect. And kind of to wrap up here, Sydney, talk to me just about what we're seeing need-wise in the community and how people can donate, because this is a need we're seeing in the community. You've covered some stories even just last week with the link and, what we're seeing with, the unhoused population and mental health, that type of thing. How can people continue to donate? Because this was an event yesterday.
Yeah, so in this story, actually, there is a link you can click to find out how to donate specifically to the St. Francis House. But we have so many other places in town, too. We have the Bishop Dudley, we have the Union Gospel Mission, you can even give money to like the link to help with mental health resources. We have so many places in town that are just devoted to helping people in need.
Perfect. Well, folks, I'm going to put a QR code up on the screen. If you go to this QR code, it's going to take you to KELOLAND.com when you scan it, and you can find Sydney's story, and that's going to link you to the St. Francis House if you want to donate to help community members in need. I'm going to leave this up here for just a little longer. If you scan this QR code, it's going to take you to our website. Again, you can go to Sydney's story and find a link to the St. Francis House to go donate or help people in need. And folks, don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're going to take a look at how tiny homes are helping our nation's heroes who may be struggling just a little bit. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Inside the Newsroom. Welcome back. The Veterans Community Project is working to give homeless veterans more than just a roof over their heads, but also a path forward. Anya Joseph spoke with the executive director of the VCP and a resident about the mission of the nonprofit.
The VCP provides 240 square foot tiny homes that are made for veterans. The layout has PTSD-informed features designed to feel familiar and safe as they get off the streets and deal with their struggles.
Whether it's beating drug or alcohol addiction, mental health addiction, navigating the VA and the services that they have available, we're just helping them get where they want to be on their road to being housed.
The goal for most of the residents is to graduate from the program within a year and find permanent housing.
However, they can be here up to 2 years and not lose their homelessness status because this is temporary housing. They are not officially housed. They get the roof over their head, and in exchange for that, we help them with all their counseling and everything that they need.
About 2 years ago, Army vet Christopher Kusler was homeless, struggling with meth addiction.
I had the opportunity actually to move into the tiny homes, but the requirement I put for myself was I had to complete treatment first. And so February 3rd of last year, I went into treatment at iRecover in Howard and completed the 60-day program that they had there.
Kusler says the VCP saved his life because it taught him accountability.
I know that without VCP, it would have been way too easy to go back to the old ways that I really didn't want to go back to. And so now I'm celebrating over a year in recovery, going to meetings all the time, and also working at the treatment center that I graduated from on the weekend. So it's been a full circle moment for sure.
And Anya joins us now. Anya, thank you so much for joining us. This was a story that you aired on Friday. Talk to me a little bit about what went in to actually getting this story done.
So I reached out to the executive director of the VCP, and he basically told me that he did have a veteran that would be willing to talk. And so once I went in and talked to him, I got more information about just how many homeless veterans there were and just what the program does to help out the veterans and get them, get them stable and able to move out and get permanent housing.
If you don't remember the stats, that's okay. Do you happen to remember any of the stats on what we're seeing here in Sioux Falls?
As of 2026, no. I think they're still waiting for that pit count. But for 2025, I believe I was told 37.
Okay.
37 homeless vets.
Yeah. And so how are these homes really, your story was all about how they're helping them get back on their feet and, create a path forward for themselves. How does this really do that?
Well, from my understanding, I think it really helps with the fact that they have a place to lay their heads at night. And, I think Jim Lynn told me, the executive director, he told me that the mailroom is their favorite room, the veterans' favorite room, because in order to get started with anything, they need an address. So I think it really helps them just get back into the real world because it's hard to do that when you're on the streets. And he said that the goal is to graduate in a year, but they can stay there for up to 2 years. So they have time to figure out, what they want to do, with their lives. And there is help and resources. Jim Lynn says that they have life, resources for them to help them just better navigate their internal battles and just getting back on their feet.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. I think one of the things I've learned as a journalist and what people keep telling me, and I think it fits in perfectly with Anya's story, is housing is healthcare. And so it helps, our most vulnerable, whether it's veterans or just unhoused people. So Anya, thank you so much for joining us. Folks, don't go anywhere because we are going to be back with more Inside the Newsroom after the break. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Another season on the slopes has come to an end at Great Bear Ski Valley in Sioux Falls. The weather that was responsible for melting the snowpack at Great Bear and ending the season was anything but warm this weekend, but we're not going to talk too much about the temps like we have the last few episodes and more about Great Bear. Travis Fossing joins us now with a story he's going to do later tonight. Travis, thank you so much for joining us. We're seeing the season on the slopes coming to an end. How are people feeling?
Well, I think overall they're happy. I mean, they had more than 40,000 visits out there this year, maybe slightly less than they were expecting because they got the season started so early. Usually it's Christmas break at best before the year starts, and this time it was early to mid-December, somewhere in there, that they were able to get people out on the slopes. And I know they were hoping to make it until March, but just didn't work out that way with all the warm temperatures we had earlier this month.
Well, and we're so used to Great Bear being seasonal. We're used to, Mother Nature kind of doing her thing. To me, it's a little weird because it's still February.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, there's been times that they've only been open for a handful of weeks. They've had their shortest season on record here in the last couple of years. They had their longest season on record the last couple of years. So you just never know what Mother Nature is going to throw out there. And this year they started early, but yeah, they may be ending a little bit early. But again, the goal this time around was to make it to March. Didn't quite get there.
Well, and it sounds like they went out with a bang.
Yeah.
I see some costumes on the screen here. Talk to me a little bit about the event yesterday as they closed.
Yeah, Snirtfest always has the costume contest. They have a limbo competition. This year they went with a sledding competition because they weren't able to do their normal pond skimming event. That's open water where people come down the hill and slide across the water. It was too cold. Usually it's 40, 50 degrees for this end-of-year celebration. And believe it or not, everything had melted because of the warm weather. Well, on the day they want to end their season and say, hey, it's warm, we're done for the year, well, then it was too cold. They were worried about people getting wet and potentially hypothermia out there.
Well, and we don't want that.
No, but it was a good time anyway.
Perfect. Well, and what can people look forward to seeing in your story tonight? Because this is a preview. It's airing later.
Yeah, we're going to hear from the winner of the costume contest. Also some kids that were out there, just about them and the fact that they're going to miss Great Bear Ski Valley once it's closed for the season. And just hearing from the people out on the slopes, along with Dan Greider. He's the general manager, and he was dressed up in costume as well, so you can look forward to that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Travis. It's always a pleasure having you on Inside the Newsroom. And folks, that's going to be all the time we have for Inside the Newsroom today. Make sure to catch us every weekday at 1 and 3 p.m. Central Time right here on KELOLAND Plus. Until next time, have a great day.